channel. We are so excited. It looks like some of you are really enjoying us and our egos are going sky high. We do thank you so very much. Today, Gail and I are going to discuss some books that we have read in the past. And we have really had to kind of study and take notes because our memories aren't as good as they used to be.
Absolutely.
Right, Gail?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to take a sip of coffee just to kind of give me some courage today.
And we're so excited to be at my sister's home in her cute little place that's got books and flowers and pictures, and I just love it. So we can share my house or your house, right?
That's right, and many other places we're hoping in the future.
Yes.
Well, to start out today, I am going to talk about a book called Wish You Were Here by Stuart Onan. Looked like there was a glare on that, trying to get that off. Wish You Were Here by Stuart Onan. And this actually has two other books that come after this one. But this author has written a lot of books. This book is about a widower. I think that's right, Gail. What's the lady?
The lady is widow,
Okay.
and the man is widower.
Okay, see, she's a little bit more educated than me.
No.
But she's lost her husband, Henry. And so she has gathered the family. I'm going to see how long it takes Gail to guess what this is reminiscent of for us. She's gathered together the family, her son, who is a photographer that is not doing that well, and her daughter Meg, who is estranged from her husband and has actually just come out of rehab, and then her sister Arlene. And they're all going up to the lake house for a couple of weeks in the summer.
I know right away.
What is it?
It's siesta.
It's
And
siesta.
how our mom and her sister and our families would go and have a wonderful time. And we would even get into little tiffs maybe, depending on what was going on, but mostly a wonderful time.
I mean, and it actually went through generations, so that is exciting. And they are going to Lake Chautauqua. It's in New York. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. But they all get there, and it is all about the families, how they remember things, how they get into disagreements. They are going to mend some relationships. It's so warm and touching, and I just enjoyed it so much. I also read the other books that come after this one, and I think if you pick this book up, you might remember something that your family has done traditionally, because it is so lifelike. The characters are very much lifelike, and I enjoyed it. Again, it is called Wish You Were Here by Stuart Onan.
And the book I want to review today, I read several years ago. The title is A Life Intercepted by Charles Martin. He is absolutely my favorite male author. And, was there a little bit? Glare. We're worrying about the lighting
Yes,
here.
the camera stand broke right before we started filming.
Right. So we're not sure how this is going to come back. Charles Martin is the counterpart to Lisa Wingate to me. Lisa Wingate, who I have reviewed several of her books, and I will be reviewing some more of her books, is my favorite female author. And Charles Martin is my favorite male. I have read every book that he has written, and I have on hold his latest. But this book is all about being on top of everything in every way. Matthew was a fine athlete. He was picked during the first draft to be on a professional team. He had found the love of his life, beautiful wife Audrey, and then all of a sudden everything begins to topple and spiral downward, and he ends up in prison. So he's at the depths of despair and finally does get out, and he wants to find his wife, find where she is. She has left him, divorced him during all of this, and it's really sad, but he still loves her. She's still the love of his life. He tries to find her during this story, and in the process, he's really risking some parole rules and this sort of thing, but he also encounters a young man, and he is able to help this young man become a person that actually Matthew probably envisioned himself becoming at one point.
Oh, before other things happen.
Yes. So it's just got a lot.
It's a redeeming, kind of a redeeming story.
It is. It's sad in parts. It's very heart-wrenching in parts, and yet there is hope and there is life, and I think you will enjoy it. A Life Intercepted, Charles Martin.
I have read a few of his, Gales, and my favorite, it's the first one. It's something about fireflies. I can't. Anyway, Charles Martin, great author. I love him. One more thing I have to say about this one, especially for those who subscribe to us who are in our family. We have a large family. Wish You Were There mentions a lot about the missing person, Henry, who reminds me a lot of my father. He was the quiet, steady, you could come to him with any problem. When our mother would get totally hysterical, he would calm her down. Booly, Booly, that was her nickname. But
we called him our rock.
Yes.
He was our.
And so, I mean, when a book just really makes you think so much about your family and the different members and the different things that they have gone through, then you know it's a well-written book, written by a man, which I'm always fascinated when men can write female characters so
yes,
poignantly and wonderfully. So we're going to pause for a moment and come back. I had to go get a refresher of coffee.
And it's so good.
It is good. I like mine black now. It took me a long time to get rid of the sugar and cream, but I do like it.
Give me a little sweetened flavored creamer and I'm fine.
So good. Well, my next book that I read some time ago is called Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. And it's so interesting how sometimes I just will pick up books that are not ones that I normally would. And I suspect that this was probably recommended by a booktuber, because when you get our age and you've read for so many, many years, you do start seeking out sources to recommend books to you. And I discovered booktubers about a year ago, and I have about 15 that I follow regularly and enjoy them all. But Diane Setterfield wrote this book back in like the 1890s. It's in a little village in England on the River Thames. And there's one of those typical little English inns, and everybody's clustered around, visiting, drinking. And this strange man comes in, and you can tell he has been extremely injured. And he's got this little girl in his arms, and she appears to be dead. So just so happens the nurse in the village is in the inn, and she takes both of these people back in an area where she can help them and work on them. And the girl does revive, although she is mute. And she's about 6 years old. And what happens is nobody in the village knows who she is or where she came from, and she can't say anything. But as you start to read, there are 3 different families who want this little girl to be the one that they think she is. There's a couple, they're a very sweet, wealthy couple, and their daughter was kidnapped a couple of years ago. And then there's a farming family whose oldest son left home, and they found out later on that he had a child that he basically really didn't have much to do with, and they're hoping maybe that's their granddaughter and they want to take her in and love her and raise her. And then there's the housekeeper for the parson in the village, and she lives all alone. She has a very simple life and a somewhat sad life, and she so hopes that it's her little sister that she thinks accidentally passed away, and she thinks it was partially due to her.
So the man that brought her in does not know anything about her.
That's correct, Gail.
Okay.
He does explain a little bit about how he found her and that type of thing, but most of the book goes into these 3 different families, and it goes somewhat into their background, and you're pulling for all of them. You're like, can she be 3 little girls, please? Oh. But it's so interesting. It's written almost mystically and has a wonderful ending, and the river is almost like a character, and I guess that's, Once Upon a River, because she does talk a lot about the river Thames and the different aspects of the people around it and what they do and how it overflows and does different things. But I loved the book. It's one that like I said, I wouldn't normally pick up, but I guarantee you will enjoy it. You don't want to leave the village at the end. You want to stay there with those people. So it's that type of book. Hold it up one more time. Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. She wrote another book, The 13th Tale, that really took off. Now, I haven't read that one yet, so I'm looking forward to reading it.
And my next book is The List by Robert Whitlow, and it is a book that I read many years ago, so I probably will glance at my notes a little bit more. This was written in 1996, and Robert Whitlow is a UGA graduate. His undergrad was Furman, and he went to the University of Georgia Law School.
Go Dogs,
yes.
National champions.
And he graduated from the law school with honors and became an attorney. But like I say, in 1996, he decided to have his practice be part-time so that he could write. And this was the book that launched his career, The List by Robert Whitlow.
What is The List?
It is comprised of centuries-old family members, okay?
Oh, okay.
And this
one... I was thinking it might be like a hit list. The hit list.
No, not really. It's a list of... It's almost like a select group, a special secret group. It's a secret. This is full of 100-year-old secrets. It also has quite a potential for evil, the dark side, and Rennie is a brand new lawyer, just graduated, and he's just about to start his practice, and his father dies. And his father leaves a very wealthy inheritance to charity, and leaves to Rennie this post office box that he goes to, and it has a couple of keys in there, and also it has a cassette tape. You can tell, it's kind of quite a ways back. And so when he puts the tape in the tape player, it's his father speaking, and he says, I'm praying that you do not have anyone sitting in there with you. This is very secretive, only for your ears. So he listens to all of this. He decides he's going to check out this particular group, because also in the box was a gold coin. And the father alludes to the fact that there is a large amount of gold in Europe. That these originally, 100 years ago, these different family members put it in a special place in Europe. And so he's really intrigued about maybe, I might be wealthy after all. I might be able to actually get something from my father's inheritance. So he goes to the very first meeting, And the second character, Jo, is also at this meeting. Her father has just passed away. So the only way that you can become a part of the group, the list, is to inherit it. Yeah, it's passed down to the oldest son, and you can become a part of the group, but there's a lot of requirements that they must meet. And I don't think it will be a spoiler to go ahead and let you know that for the first time, Jo is a female. Her father had no sons, so she's the female interest in there.
It's funny because I was going to ask you. You just said you could only be a male, and then you said something about a female, and I thought I'm not going to ask anything because that could maybe that'll throw her off. Maybe that was a boo-boo, but it wasn't a boo-boo.
So pick up the list. You will not be able to put it down by Robert Whitlow.
Sounds great. We're looking forward to. I don't think I've read any of his. I'd like to try some of his. Sounds good.
He's got some good ones.
All right, my next book I'm going to talk about is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is his first book. He wrote it in 2018, and it won the Costa Award for the best new author. This book, you have to read it. You have to read it. If I do a horrible job about it, you have to read it. I would have never picked up this book. I know it was a booktuber that told me to pick up this book. It is in England, and it starts out in the forest, and it's misty, and it's dark, and the man is running, and he's calling after this lady, Anna, Anna, and it's kind of like he comes to himself, and he looks down and he doesn't remember whose hands these are, doesn't remember his name, doesn't remember anything about himself, but he's like, well, I'm chasing this lady, I better keep going. So he runs after her, Anna, Anna. He hears this gunshot, and then all of a sudden, in just a little bit, these twigs are crackling. It's very misty, it's very dark, but someone whispers to him, head east, and drops something in one of his pockets. So he pulls it out, and it's a compass, and he heads east. And he comes across this mansion, and he goes in there, and he's just really so confused. He doesn't know anything. But what happens is he has 8 days to figure out who a murderer is. And each day, he is going to wake up inside another one of the characters that's there, and it's a masquerade ball weekend. And
8 days. Why 8 days?
Well, it's something that's been going on. It's one, it's a little bit supernatural.
Okay.
But if he can't figure it out, he'll stay in the loop, and he'll stay. And who knows how long he's been in this loop. But it's so interesting. It sounds so quirky, but it's so fabulous. I'm telling you, this guy, how do you beat a book like this? I feel sorry for him because this is his best book, and it is just out of this world. So when he's in these characters, you start to learn a lot about different people. You start to gather clues, but he also finds out that there are 3 other people there that are trying to solve the mystery, and they're experiencing the same type of thing, and only one of them is going to be able to do it. It is fabulous. I just say pick it up, read it. Don't let anything scare you off from not reading it, because it's going to grab you right away, and you are going to love it. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
And I just have to ask you, because this is a mystery. And
yes.
Did you read the last chapter like you do?
No, I did not.
Good.
I did
Good
not.
For you.
It was so good, so intriguing, and really it was, I mean, I had no clue, and I didn't want to have a clue. It's just, it was
one
great.
of those kind.
Great.
Well, my next book is It Happened at the Fair by Deeanne Gist. And she loves to write historical fiction, and that is one of my favorite genres, if you haven't figured that out just yet. So here is another historical fiction. There's some truth in this book. It happened at the fair, and it actually is set in 1893 the Chicago World's Fair that was actually going on at that time. And Cullen is one of the main characters. He's a promising young inventor. Right now he's stuck at home having to take care of the family farm, but his heart and his gifts are in inventions. And so he borrows all the money that he can borrow, takes all of his savings out, takes out a mortgage on the family farm, and is able to go to the Chicago World's Fair. And you have to admit your invention and then they will allow you to be there. And he's allowed to be there. But the Machinery Hall is the title of where all the different inventions that are machines, which his is. It's a special sprinkler system. It is so loud in there. He can hardly speak and understand when he's trying to maybe get someone to look at it, possibly want to purchase it.
Is it because of the machineries?
Yes, and all of them are going, and it's in this building, and it's echoing everywhere, and he's very discouraged and frustrated. But one day he sees a teacher come in with a group of students. She's showing them around the World's Fair, and she is a teacher of the deaf.
Wow.
And he has an idea.
Whoa.
What if she would teach me to read lips? And then I would be able to speak with the... It's so interesting.
That's fascinating.
It is
really
so
is.
interesting. And actually, she's a beautiful young lady. And I'll just take one little line out of the book. He's just can hardly pay attention to her teaching as he looks at her lips because they're so beautiful and they're so inviting. But he has a very steady...
Botox will do that.
This was 1893.
Right.
I don't think so. He has a girlfriend back home, so that's a little
Downer.
yeah,
Downer
a little
for
bit,
him.
a little kink that's in there. But one thing that's wonderful about the book, which I love, when they are historical fiction, there are pictures. Some of them are actual artist drawings of the buildings that were at the fair. The big Ferris wheel, that was one of the first
I love the
times.
Ferris wheel.
Yes. And I want to just read one little part because at the end of the book, she takes several pages to explain how she tried to stay close to the historical part.
You're not going to read all the pages.
Oh, no. Can I just read just a couple of sentences?
Just a couple.
Now it's confession time. Though I did extensive research and depicted things as accurately as I could, I did take a bit of creative license here and there. To help you discern between fact and fiction, I will give you a summary, and then you'll have to read that. But when I started my research on the Chicago World's Fair, I had no idea how comprehensive it was and all the resources that were out there, because it was a very, very important fair. It launched a lot of the agricultural machinery. It launched a lot of the architecture that became popular at the time. I mentioned the Ferris wheel. Pick up this book. You will love It Happened at the Fair by Deeanne Gist.
Well, so my sweet son, who does our editing, will not have to correct me about what I said. There are actually only 2 other persons at the masquerade weekend that have the same kind of ability that Aiden does. That is his name. Carla, look at it and make sure. Aiden Bishop. Yeah.
My youngest grandchild is Aiden. I love that name.
I do too. Well, we just want to thank you again for watching today. And I did want to mention there was some pitter-patter in one of the segments that we had, and it was not a hailstorm outside. It was actually my 2 large Great Pyrenees whose nails need trimming that were running up and down the hallway. I just kind of wanted to explain that, and I hope it wasn't distracting.
And we just thank you so much for joining Sugar and Spice Sisters, and we hope that you will subscribe and hit that bell. And we hope that you will join us again soon.
And so glad we added the vodka. Not really.
Believe it's just coffee.